I am Cozy Friedman, and I'm here to talk about the anatomy of a big idea. But before I get started, there's just one quick thing that I want to say. Yes, my real name is Cozy. I had two hippie parents that wanted me to have a unique name, and that's where I got it from. So I just want to get that out of the way so we could all focus and move on. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm often referred to as the pioneer of the kids' hair salon industry. I opened my first Cozy's Cuts for Kids 22 years ago, and we recently celebrated our 1 millionth haircut. I am also the founder of SoCozy Hair Care for Children, which is sold in 8,000 stores around the country, including Target, CVS, Walgreens, salons, and so on. So it all began in the early 90s when a friend of mine told me, sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. A friend of mine told me how she took her nephew to get his haircut at her adult salon. Well, the little boy got scared and he started to cry and they were asked to leave. So I just said to her, well, why didn't you take him to a place for kids? And she said, I don't think there is one. So I described that as my lightning bolt moment, where I was like, really, there should be a place for kids. So I did some research and I realized that actually there was no place for kids. And I quit my job, I went to barber school and I got licensed. And all the while looking for my first location. But I could not find a landlord that would rent to me because nobody understood the concept of a kid's hair salon back in the early 90s. So you have to understand that it was such a different landscape back then that, if you think about it, Baby Gap wasn't even around. Believe it or not, the internet didn't even exist. So it was a whole different time. And, just to give you an example, my #1 marketing initiative at the time, and I'm not lying, it was literally my mother handing out postcards on the corner of Madison Avenue. And I would have these women that would come in with the strollers and the kids, and they would say, are you Cozy? I just met your mother on the corner of 81st Street, and she told me that I needed to come here. And so, that's really how relationships were built back then. And we always had very, very close relationships. And, although the brand has evolved and technology has obviously evolved, the one thing that has not changed is that we have never stopped building relationships. So anyway, the business grew, I opened more salons, I wrote a book, things are going great, but I have this one problem. I cannot find a line of hair care products to use in my salons for children. So there were products for babies and there were products for adults, but there wasn't really anything in between. And so customers would say, what should I do? My child has outgrown the baby stuff. What do I do? So that's why I created SoCozy. And the intention was really just to use it in my salons. But retailers started coming to me and they wanted to buy it. And so the wholesale business, really grew. And it grew because I was solving a problem. And, I was building these relationships with the retailers very similarly to the way that I was building relationships with our clients. So, as the business grew, opportunities presented themselves. And with opportunities comes choice. And I had to decide, how did I want to continue with the business? And I found I had 3 choices. #1, I could do nothing and just continue with this great little business that I had. Or #2, I could open more salons across the country, not just in New York, which I felt was more labor intensive and obviously capital intensive. Or #3, I could focus on the products. Here it was that I found this great white space opportunity. I was, uniquely qualified to launch a brand like this. So, obviously, I decided to go for it with SoCozy. So what I needed to do was refocus the business, which I did. I built an amazing team of people, and we raised money, and we had to figure out what was the strategy that we were going to use to be able to compete, in the big leagues on a startup budget. So how did we do it? We knew our customers. We knew who they were, what they wanted, where they shopped, and how they engaged with brands. And it is to no one's surprise in this room that our customer is the millennial mom, and we know that she spends a lot of time online. The brand architecture, The brand architecture was built to support the generation, engagement, and sharing of content. We identified a visual territory that we could own and a visual vocabulary to tell our own unique narrative. So what I mean by that is, in the early days, there was sort of this default, language, if you will, of what people used for children's products. So it was either cartoon characters like SpongeBob or rubber ducks or teddy bears, or my personal favorite was always a picture of this perfect child with perfect hair and a perfect smile, dressed perfectly with a perfect mother. And all of us know that no one actually exists like that in real life. So instead, we chose our narrative to focus on real children and celebrate their beautiful and quirky and funny, I say their perfect imperfections. And so our tagline, "Being you is our idea of cool," is really about celebrating individuality. And it is really what we think about every single day when we're doing everything with our brand and making every decision. So when we first launched the brand, we had a 360-degree comprehensive launch. And that included all of the traditional levers that one would launch with, which is posters, brochures, shelf talkers, and the like. But after some quick learnings, we recognized that what was really resonating was digital. So we made the decision, and it was a little brave and it was a little scary, to take our budget and go for it with digital and be a digital-first brand. And we understood that this was the opportunity to continue building those relationships. So, when we talk about relationships and authentic relationships, and everyone's been talking about it all day, and I think it's obviously really, really important, the one thing that we must realize is, though the technology has changed, the one thing that hasn't changed is the importance of these authentic relationships. And so I think back to my early days, and one thing that I always really understood was the importance of the park bench. And what I mean by that is, this is where moms go to talk to other moms and learn. And it doesn't matter if they're learning about how to potty train your child or what is the next great lipstick. They're talking to people and they're learning, and they trust each other. And so if you think about it today, social media is the modern day park bench. And what's interesting is that when we first launched the brand, or relaunched the brand, we decided that we were going to outsource our digital. And we thought, this is great. We'll hire an expert, and they'll come in and they'll plug us in, and we'll go viral, and everything will be great. But what we realized is that the best thing that we have going for us, and probably our biggest advantage, is the fact that we have amazing relationships with our customers, and we have the ability to create amazing relationships. So we took it back in-house, our digital, and we committed to building a network. And that was really important, because we had to make the decision that we were going to commit both time, resources, and energy to building this network of influencers. So now we manage a network of over 1,500 influencers, and we do that in-house. And we speak to each and every one of our influencers all the time, one conversation at a time. And it's very similar to the conversations that my mom and I were having back on Madison Avenue in the early days. Another part of our strategy that's really important are strategic partnerships. So we've joined forces with like-minded brands in order to maximize our reach, but yet minimize our spend. So we work with brands like UB for school supplies, or State Bags for backpacks, Baby to Baby for charity, and obviously retail partners. So this example is an event that we did. This is one of my favorites that we did with Target, which is one of our biggest retailers, when they were launching Cat and Jack, which is their kids' clothing brand. So they had a huge launch event, and we created a SoCozy style bar at the event. And Target loved it because it was a great add to their event, and we're so on brand with Cat and Jack. We loved it because it was amazing exposure for all the consumers, the press, the celebrities, and media, and so on. And it was just a perfect example of a win-win and a fantastic partnership. So, the brand is launched, and now we get to the point of what I wanted to talk about, which is, how do you plan the big idea? And from my experience, the answer is you really can't plan a big idea, unfortunately. Instead, what we do is you have a lot of small ideas, you see what actually works, and then you go for it, and you build from there. And that's exactly what happened to us with Real Men Braid. So in the early days of my salons, we never had men come to the salons. Dads just weren't around. It was always the mom's job to take the kids for haircuts. But recently, we started seeing many more men in the salon. And you would see single dads, or stay-at-home dads, or two dads, or divorced dads, whatever it was. And the one thing is that they were really, really engaged and so excited to be learning about their kids' hair. So one day a dad asked me, how do I learn how to braid my daughter's hair? So, planted the seed, maybe we should do, because we were doing classes at the time, maybe we should do a class for dads teaching them how to braid their daughter's hair. And so before we just jumped into it, we actually did some research. And we realized that, in fact, there was this trend about dads getting more involved and wanting to learn. So we launched our first class, and we pitched the New York Times. And once the New York Times wrote it up, the rest is history, because we were bombarded by the press. Everyone wanted to cover this amazing dad braiding class. And it was radio, TV, newspapers, print, digital, obviously. And it was really incredible. But we didn't just stop there and bask in the viral glow. Instead, we put money behind it. We recognized that it was working, and we went for it. So we created blog content. We shot videos, how-to videos, even how to use an elastic, all things that were very simple and more complicated to teach dads. We went to it with social media, having contests for user-generated content, and we really, really got into it. But my favorite thing that we did is we took the show on the roads, meaning whenever I would travel, which I do a lot for business, I would reach out to a partner salon or retailer and offer to do a free braiding class for dads in their shops. So obviously our retailers loved it because it was creating this great interaction and great experience, as we've been talking about today. And we loved it because it was just creating that much more awareness, and we were able to invite our influencers and our bloggers and everyone to come. And then I would reach out to the local media, and they would cover it on the morning show, so it was great. But we weren't just putting it out there, we were also listening. So this is a great example of listening. I read on Reddit about this dad, Phil, and his daughter, Emma. They were teaching dad braiding classes in Daytona Beach, Florida. So some people might have seen this as competition or a conflict, but instead we saw this as opportunity. So I did something really old-fashioned. I picked up the phone and I called Phil, and the first call we were on was over an hour because we realized that we were actually really had the same mission and we're doing, something similar. So I offered to sponsor all of his classes. So he loved it and we loved it, which, for obvious reasons, but we didn't just stop there. We flew him to New York and Emma to shoot videos together. And we also helped him build the Daddy-Daughter Hair Factory Network, which is a network of dads around the country teaching other dads how to braid hair. And so now we're sponsoring all of these classes. And then the best thing happened. Daddy-Daughter Hair Factory went viral. So now we literally have this army of men around the country teaching other men how to braid hair, but they're teaching why you should use SoCozy, how you should use SoCozy, and even where you can buy it. But we had one problem. As great as all of this was, our problem was a lot of the stories were focused on the actual braiding classes. So we needed to tie it back to product in order to achieve our business goal of selling product. So we quickly created the Styling Power Tools Kit for dads, which enabled us to refocus the story. And it gave us this whole new way to reach out to editors, and it helped to extend the life of Real Men Braid. So 18 months later, Real Men Braid is stronger than ever, literally. And what started as a small idea really became the big idea. And it grew from authentic relationships, and we had no idea that it would be this tremendous. But basically, we're an indie brand on a startup budget, and this digital playing field has it really leveled the playing fields for us so that we can compete in this big forum. So I don't know what is going to be our next big idea. I do know we'll continue with our small ideas and to nurture them, and we will continue with our real conversations that we have, much like I had back in the days on Madison Avenue. And we will always come back to our core value, which is being you is our idea of cool. Go easy on me with the questions. I didn't mean that easy.
Hi. You talked about reaching out to moms and to the millennial moms. Do you do any reach out to kids as well? And how do you reach this target demographic of your kids if they're realistically not spending so much time online?
Well, it's interesting. So we really see our customer as the mom. She's really the actual purchaser. But we feel that part of our mission as a brand is to make everything fun for the kids so that the moms will want to buy it for their children. So everything that we do, I think, is really playful for the children, and we keep that in mind, and involves the children. So, any of the influencers that we're reaching out to, everything is always based on interaction with their children, which obviously, for any moms in the room, we know that's our number one goal, is to thrill our children.
How do you expand on the hair care line? Do you go into body creams or kids products of some sort? I don't have kids, so I'm always amazed at the amount of products you need to have.
There's a lot of kids. There's a lot of products. So it's an interesting question. We're actually just launching something right now. So right now we have all things relating to hair and kids' hair care needs or issues, whether it's, and I don't want to sound like an ad, but lice or frizz or tangles or styling needs or whatever it is. And we are just now launching a new group of products that is for sensitive scalp, and it's an area that we've been seeing in our salons where there are many issues relating to sensitive scalp, and we feel that this might open up an area for a younger clientele, even going into babies, because we made this for babies as well as children, which could very well lead into personal care and the like. So, there's really a lot of room for growth. And I think that's part of the problem, is there's so much room that you have to always continue to stay focused on what your mission is.
Hi. I guess my first part is a comment, and then I have a question. So I think with the dads, you not only tapped into a trend, but you tapped more into psychological phenomenon with dads wanting to be more involved in their children and how to be more connected with their daughters. So I congratulate you on that. And I guess secondly is my question is, it seems like you started as brick and mortar and then went into digital.
Right.
And saw tremendous success, and I've seen a lot of traditional companies trying to just catch up, and you seem to do it very well. So do you have any advice for digital first, digital only companies trying to create those real conversations, those digital first companies that don't have any brick and mortar? How do they go about creating those real conversations and connecting with people?
I think, I mean, that's what everyone's been talking about today. We have this great advantage of, as you said, having the platform of the salons to base experiences off of. But I mean, we're creating experiences all around the country, and we only have salons in New York. So we're able to do that through our retailers with events that we're doing, dad braiding classes, what we're doing now, but creating experiences that way. And I think that's, I guess, what we're all here talking about today, with all of the companies creating their experiences, you know, one way or the other.
That's all the time we have for questions. Thank you.